You ever drive back to your hometown after years away and realize the whole place doesn't even look like yours anymore? That's what happened to me. One hot August morning, I turned off the highway, expecting to see the dirt road I grew up on, the one lined with oak trees my dad and I planted when I was 10, but it was gone, paved over, polished, replaced by a shiny black street with matching mailboxes and a stone sign that said, "Welcome to Ridgeview Meadows, an HOA community." My father's barn, my childhood, my everything gone, replaced by a sea of beige houses and freshly trimmed lawns that all looked like they'd been copied and pasted from a brochure. I remember stepping out of my truck, the smell of asphalt still fresh in the air, and thinking, this can't be real. Then I saw her. Red blazer, clipboard hair done up like she was running for office, shouting at landscapers like she owned the county. That was the first time I met Martha Caldwell, president of the Ridgeview Meadows Homeowners Association, self-declared queen of order and symmetry. She looked at me like I was a trespasser. "Sir, this is private HOA property," she said, snapping her gum. I held up the yellow deed my dad had signed in 1976. "Really? 'Cause this says it's mine." She smirked. "That land hasn't belonged to you for a long time." And right then, it hit me. She'd built an entire neighborhood on my land. "See, my name's Daniel Holt. My dad, Robert Holt, used to say land isn't something you own, it's something you belong to." After he passed, I couldn't bear staying. I took a job overseas, engineering work that had me bouncing from base to base. 2 years turned into 8. But I always paid the taxes, renewed the deed, and thought the county's fancy new digital system would keep everything safe. Turns out the system glitched. Some clerk mistyped my parcel ID, and suddenly my land vanished from their database. To the county, it looked like nobody owned those 47 acres. To Martha Caldwell, it looked like an opportunity. While I was gone, she'd climbed her way to HOA president and started pushing expansion plans under the guise of community improvement. She called it the Beverly Hills of the Midwest, which was laughable considering she was paving over my dad's pasture. The annexation passed without question because nobody checked who owned what. 6 months later, bulldozers rolled in. They tore down my father's cedar barn, leveled the orchards, and built cookie-cutter homes right on top of our soil. When I finally got an email from an old neighbor saying, "Danny, you'd better come home. They're building houses where your workshop used to be," I thought it was a bad joke. But when I saw those pictures, 80-some houses stretching across what used to be our ranch, I swear something broke inside me. It wasn't about money. It was about legacy. My dad's name erased by some HOA president who thought a clipboard gave her divine rights. I went straight to the county office the next day. The clerk looked me up, frowned, and said, "Sir, there's no record of a Holt Ranch in Ridgeview County. It was annexed under Ridgeview Meadows Phase 2. I stared at the screen like he'd just told me gravity stopped working. I demanded the physical files. He shrugged and pointed to the basement, said I could dig through them if I wanted to waste a few days. Days turned into weeks. I lived off vending machine coffee, combing through dusty boxes until my hands turned gray. Found everything: permits, invoices, even newsletters bragging about newly acquired land. But my original deed, gone. Or so they thought. By the time I confronted Martha again, she had her security guards flanking her like she was guarding Fort Knox. "You're trespassing," she said with that fake Southern politeness that cuts deeper than a knife. I showed her a scanned copy of the deed. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, "That's cute, but unless your name's in our database, you're just a visitor." I wanted to say a lot of things, but I just looked her in the eye and said, "You built your dream on stolen ground." She smiled that cold smile and said, "Progress doesn't wait for sentiment." After that, the war started. Violation notices appeared on my windshield. Unauthorized presence. Improper parking. I didn't even live there. She even fed the local paper some story about a disgruntled man claiming ownership of community property. But not everyone bought it. One night, a guy named Tom Riker, one of the first homeowners, knocked on my door. "You're the guy she's after, right?" he asked. I nodded. He sighed. "You're not crazy. She's got everyone terrified. Fines, threats, all of it. She'll bury anyone who questions her." Tom helped me dig deeper. We found a document, an annexation request with my dad's forged signature. The R in his name looped perfectly. Only problem was my dad broke his wrist in '82 and his signature never looped again. That was all the proof I needed. I confronted Martha outside her clubhouse while she was yelling at gardeners. "You forged my father's name," I said. She laughed too loud. "Oh, don't be ridiculous." I handed her the paper. "See that R? He couldn't write like that after his accident." Her smile cracked for just a second before she leaned in and whispered, "You have no idea who you're messing with." I whispered back, "Neither do you." After that night, my tires got slashed. My mailbox ripped out. I even got fake tax delinquency letters. She was trying to scare me, but fear doesn't work on someone who's already lost everything once. So I got methodical. Recorded everything. Screenshots, timestamps, videos, backups enough to turn her empire of paperwork into her own noose. Then luck, or maybe karma, stepped in. One afternoon at a cafe, I overheard two contractors bragging about a sweet under-the-table job, extending Ridgeview Meadows utilities without permits. I bought their coffee and asked a few questions. A week later, one of them, an old foreman named Earl, showed up at my door. "I can't sleep knowing what we did," he said. "She told us it was county approved. It wasn't." He handed me a signed work order with Martha Caldwell's signature. That became Exhibit A. I filed a lawsuit, Holt versus Ridgeview Meadows HOA and Martha Caldwell. Fraud, trespass, forgery, defamation, the whole playbook. That's when she lost it. She put up gates, hired guards, posted private property signs all over land that still legally belonged to me. I installed cameras, motion lights, even a drone. And every clip I captured her trespassing workers dumping debris went straight to my attorney, Sarah Lynn. Sharp as glass, calm as a mountain. When I handed her the evidence, she just smiled and said, "We're going to bury her with paperwork." And we did. The courtroom was packed, neighbors, reporters, even the county surveyor, Mr. John Miller, who'd marked our land back in 1976. He was in his 80s now, but sharp as a tack. Sarah called him to the stand. "Mr. Miller, does the Ridgeview Meadows subdivision overlap with the original Holt Ranch?" He pointed at the map and said, "Every inch of it. They built those houses on Holt soil." You could hear people gasp. Martha's lawyer tried to argue good faith development. Sarah pulled up an email Martha had sent to the developers. "If we wait for clearance, we'll lose the project. File the paperwork retroactively." The courtroom went dead silent. I should have felt triumphant, but Martha wasn't the kind to go down quietly. 2 nights before the verdict, my cameras caught her at the site with construction crews digging near the old gas line, trying to pull up the boundary markers before the court could inspect them. I raced over headlights, cutting through the dark. She screamed that I was trespassing. I shouted back, "You're destroying evidence on my land," and then boom, a gas line ruptured. The explosion lit up the night sky like a war zone. Bulldozers, flipped trees, caught fire, chaos everywhere. When the smoke cleared, 6 houses were gone. By some miracle, no one died. But every bit of it, every shout, every spark was caught on my camera. The sheriff took one look at the footage and said, "Well, Mr. Holt, that's case closed. Martha was arrested that afternoon. Reckless endangerment, fraud, property destruction, you name it." In court, she looked smaller somehow. No red blazer, just a gray jumpsuit. When the judge read the verdict, All land associated with parcel R47B shall be restored to its rightful owner. Mr. Daniel Holt, she whispered, you think you've won. I didn't answer. Because truth be told, it didn't feel like winning. It felt like standing in the ashes of something sacred, finally free, but still hollow. A month later, the county handed me the deed, framed, sealed, and official. Bulldozers came again, this time on my orders. We tore down 80 houses, but spared a few for families who'd had no idea what they were caught in. I sold those plots legally for $1 each on one condition: they had to help rebuild the land as a public preserve. We called it Holt Meadow Park. Now when I walk through it, I can still smell the earth my father worked, hear the wind move through the oaks. There's a wooden sign by the creek that volunteers built themselves. It reads, "For those who tried to take and those who learned to give back." I smile every time I see it. You know, people like Martha think power comes from control, from rules, gates, and fear. But real power comes from patience, from knowing you're standing on the side of truth even when it takes years to prove it. My father used to say, "Land doesn't belong to the loudest voice, son, it belongs to the one who listens." And he was right. The land listened. It remembered. It waited. And in the end, it spoke louder than any HOA ever could. So tell me if this happened to you. If someone built their dream on your history, would you fight for it, or would you walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know where you stand. Because sometimes standing your ground isn't just about property. It's about who you are when the dust finally settles.